Brandon Bernier, Roselle resident. I will not keep you here till 11. First off, I just want to start with saying Happy Women's History Month. I meant to say this last week, on International Women's Day, but I'm proud that this council and our mayor, we do have 50% women on the council and the town's first female mayor. I think it's important to just recognize that during this month. And the other thing I want to say is that I'm extremely happy that I've lived all of my life in this town. I genuinely feel that I'm a better man for having lived in a diverse town all my life. I went to college in D.C., and I met a lot of people there from all around the country, and various people who grew up in rural America and were not exposed to people that did not look like them until they got to college. And for me, that was mind-blowing that someone just could come from somewhere that's in such a bubble. But I'm proud to have lived in this town and the diversity that we've seen. And I want to thank you, Mayor, for this executive order to support every resident in this town. And I do just want to take a few minutes to clear up some of the misconceptions about it that I've heard from a few people, whether they've gotten up here or just been in the audience. There are plenty of federal laws that Roselle cops don't proactively enforce, and I think that needs to be heard and understood. The executive order is saying Roselle cops are not going to proactively go out, have traffic stops looking for people, checking their documents, and calling ICE to deport them. You can go up and down the federal law books and find many other laws that our cops are not spending their time, our tax dollars on, going out and trying to enforce. So I think that's one thing that's really important to say. The misconceptions about federal funding being pulled, I think, have been talked about well enough. It's unconstitutional for the president to think he's going to be able to do that. But also, if we're going to lose $500,000, so be it. I think it's important enough in this town that we go through with this. I mean, there are plenty of different places we can go look for $500,000. Namely, one thing I've gotten up in the past and talked about was the borough clerk we've spent almost $500,000 on over the last few years. But I'll leave it at that. One other thing I want to get to is executive session. And I do want to ask Councilman Alberg not to continue these lines of attacks, to bring up things for kind of political purposes and get into elections coming up. This isn't the time for it. May I have an extra 3 minutes? The people of Roselle want to see you up here talking about the issues that matter, and I believe the people in this town are smart enough to know that what goes on up here is to inform them in their decisions when they go to vote for everyone. I mean, I don't need to get up here and say, vote one way or the other. Just let everything play out. People are going to make the decision they want to make. But also to go to executive session. Executive session is supposed to be held in the strictest of confidence. That means no one who is in that executive session is to speak about anything that was said in that executive session ever. And generally, in most bodies, you can be censured or removed from office for breaking that confidence. And sitting in the audience today, I heard every single council member speak about what went on during executive session last week. So please just keep that in mind. Executive session, the entire purpose of that is so this body can operate and kind of do what it needs to do without whatever discussions, arguments, whatever, what have you. It's to be kept private. No matter what side you're on, that's kind of this body's place to do what it needs to do without anyone else knowing about it. And I just want to thank those who've gotten up tonight. Thank you for your courage. Whether you're undocumented yourself or your parents are, it takes a lot of courage to get up here and say that. It's important that we hear your stories, and I know how much courage it takes to be able to stand up and have the courage to tell that story, because it does kind of put a target on your back. It kind of puts you in the eyes of everyone that they now know your story. And to my neighbor here who got up and said that she felt like she wasn't seen, that only kind of the few who are criminals are seen, I see you, we see you, this town sees you, and I want you to know that. I just want to end with one more thing. Prejudice and stereotypes are dangerous. Whether people look like you, don't look like you, take them for kind of who they are. And I came into this meeting, and the first thing we did was stood up and took the Pledge of Allegiance. And there was someone who many people who are on President Trump's side who want to, just go out and deport everyone. Someone that didn't look like me was standing next to me with her young son. We got up, pledged our allegiance to that flag. She held his hand over his heart, showed him what to do when we pledged our allegiance to that flag. And it struck me, it moved me, and I think everyone just needs to realize we're all here, we're one community, pledging our allegiance to this country, that flag. So thank you, Council.